It's a big day today.
What's today?
Well, as you've all heard, Hollow Knight's Silk Song is coming out. We've all been waiting for it for 7 years, right?
I have no idea what you're talking about.
What? This is a media podcast. You're not clued up about the biggest media event of the day?
No.
It just came out today, and it's crashed every system. It's a massive media event that most people are never going to even...
Well, yeah, the thing is, this is the problem. It's not like lining up for Windows. I mean, that was when times were good. Welcome to People vs. Algorithms, a show about connecting the dots in media, technology, and culture. I'm Brian Morrissey, joined by Dr. Pangloss, a.k.a. Troy Young, and the misunderstood Alex Schleifer, representing the gaming community.
Thank you.
You big, huggable gamer, you.
I'm eager for this Panglossian packaging. Just to set it up, I just had breakfast with someone who's been in the media industry for 30 years, I'll just say. And one of his first comments to me was, I can't believe young people go into this industry. Now you can go, Troy.
Well, thank you, Brian. Thank you for having me this week. Before I start, I was admiring Human Computer. Alex got the memo that everything is media. So he took a bunch of his hard-won venture capital and in advance of releasing a game is creating basically a video game media company. And he's got the intrepid Elliot out there doing sort of well-scripted YouTube videos about his favorite gaming experiences. The one he did this week made me want to play a game, to be honest. The one where it was like you skip around in some spaceship and it's kind of ambient noise and you know, you got all these wicked kind of landscapes that you fly around in, and it's not like, you know, traditional gaming mechanics. I thought it was cool.
I think you're talking about Sword of the Sea, potentially. You're kind of surfing on a sword over the sand. It's like, It looks like it's, yeah.
Anyway, the Everything is Fine narrative, Brian, to get back to it, was...
Yeah. You're going to channel your Neil Vogel. Go on.
Yeah. I mean, the changes that we're living through, and I guess we can start to see the outline of the future. We can talk a little about that, but they're pretty tectonic. And for people that we know and love in the digital media space, the distribution changes brought about by AI and Google's kind of deprecation of the juicy, you know, traffic-filled link have been hard on the industry, particularly if you had, 60% of your traffic that came and drove your advertising affiliate or subscription line item. You know, it's been hard. Obviously, the other big narrative is the disintegration of the cable box and the bundle and everything that's, you know, forcing with what were once the best businesses in media. But I maintain that if you survey the market broadly, you just see a ton of healthy innovation, maybe less on the business model side where money's pouring out of the, you know, out of sort of, you know, what I guess were larger, kind of more generationally established businesses to, you know, smaller, maybe more transitional media companies. And if you just look at, and I was just thinking, like, look at all the things that I sort of delight in, and you look at maybe what you might call the sort of indie wonders or the auteurs, and they've stripped out all the costs and they leverage platforms and the audience potential of platforms, and the business and the virtue of it extends usually from the founder. And, you know, the business model may vary between, you know, advertising, subscription, and events and maybe merchandising, but you don't have to look very far to just see an endless number of, you know, really interesting people in sort of emergent media brands, whether that's the person we talk about a lot, Emily Sundberg at Feed Me, that's doing great, or this
She just hired her first couple people.
Yeah.
Managing editor, and I believe a contributing editor.
Nicholas Carlson, who seems to be off to a good start at Dynamo Media. I watched this oil platform video that has a couple million views on it that he did that was super interesting, and I think a sign of independence, making kind of ambitious, you know, 20-minute YouTube content. Oliver Darcy seems to have taken his sort of whiny liberal media criticism
He's dialed that back.
Yeah, a little bit. And, he used to be a Republican, which I didn't know, but he was on Peter Kafka's podcast this week, and he's smart and unrelenting. And it's called Status. If you like, an aggregator, John Ellis, I've talked about it before at News Items, makes tasty morning content. On the bigger side, we see a couple years after leaving the Times, Barry Weiss might bag $100 million plus exit with her sort of feisty brand of right-leaning stuff at the Free Press, and maybe
anti-woke. It's very important to be
right. But the
anti-woke.
list is long, right? A lot of it's podcasting, but you've got the Tech Brothers, their podcast network, TBPN. You got Pivot, that's making people a lot of money. You've got All In, which is a big podcast with lots of convening power. We've had
MKBHD.
We got MKBHD. We got Henry Blodgett now with his new, kind of positive slanted solutions podcast. We got, the old stalwarts in podcasting like Dax Shepard with Armchair Expert, who built a nice business. Plain English, Ben Thompson's podcast.
Derek,
How Long Gone?
Derek, get the Thompsons straight.
Oh, Derek Thompson.
Ben is Stratechery.
Yeah, Ben.
It's Stratechery. It's like the worst name.
Ben has a nice business. Huberman has a nice business. Smartless has a nice business.
Yeah, they're all small.
Lex Friedman. I mean, no, they're small, but they're serving us well. I mean, and there's new ones. Amy Poehler has a hot new podcast. The Kelsey brothers have New Heights. Dude Perfect is doing a tour across theaters with Regal. So it's going, there's a lot there and it's going well. Then you have the guys that are aggregating people, like Puck is arguably an aggregator that blankets 4 or 5 verticals with emails every day, has people that are really sort of getting,
they're breaking news.
They're breaking news.
Dylan has
Lauren broke the news on Vogue's new editor. I think that they're sort of unrelenting. They're ever present in my kind of media dive.
Small business.
And then Semaphore is trying to lead a different play, which I find kind of fascinating. So kind of make a premium, internationally oriented journalistic product, keep it kind of unrestrained by a subscription imperative, drive, I guess, high levels of awareness and influence with that, start to do niche events, and then really try to get a big event. And if you can get a big event that other people build small events around, and you see that, those are coveted assets like South by Southwest or Cannes or CES or Met Ball or Davos, you can build something extremely lucrative. And
it's like a $400 million business, I think, Thomas. So it's a big business.
And so they're aspiring to do that with, I think, their World Economy Summit. Justin, who's the business lead at Semaphore, Justin Smith, seems comfortable there. And they made new hires this week, in the event space.
All like events,
it's
an events business.
They call live journalism, right? And then we're seeing the people that are trying to escape the gravitational pull of the cable bundle, and we're seeing that with Fox and ESPN. The annoying part here is, as Alex pointed out in a text to me, is the authentication on ESPN is a ball ache for sure. Because, they're forcing you to use your, in my case, YouTube TV or your Comcast authentication or your Disney authentication to get access to that content. But they're trying to basically turn sports consumption into something that's more active. I don't know what Fox is doing because I haven't checked it out. But
They got Portnoy up in there. They've got McAfee is on. I mean, this is part of being talent aggregators or talent managers. I think that's a good lane.
So all of this means that the kind of distribution through line that was like the old way that, distribution in media is the thing to always look at to figure out how people win or lose. And I would argue, if we do want to talk about Vice could have been a great business and definitely had a kind of highly differentiated kind of format and point of view. But
Just missing an audience. That was the only thing.
Well, other than
missing.
grabbing a TV station in a dying cable world, they had too much spend against a shitty distribution or an unstable distribution strategy. But if they had just stayed closer to being a production company, it could have been a terrific long.
Yeah, if they stayed up front for like being a production arm, great,
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah.
Sure. But they had no audience. That was the biggest
Anyway,
problem.
what I think I communicated, or at least tried to, is across these different media types, whether you're focused on being, kind of lean and vertical and auteur-led, or you're trying to build a big event franchise, or you have the luxury of sitting. I think it's interesting to see kind of news providers start to inherit the mantle of cable news. And they look really, really different. So I think, for example, New York Times benefits from that. And these kind of organizations are hybrid media organizations now. They're text and audio and video, in addition to being more than just news, like news and lifestyle. And so you get, what I think is a huge amount of innovation and a very, very well-served consumer. So the best of times, Brian.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I think one of the issues, if I could, as I tried to point out throughout it, is most of these are very small businesses. So like you have a sort of tale of two worlds, the best of times and worst of times. It used to be much better to be bigger. And in some cases it is. In the case of like the New York Times, Wall Street Journal still is a good business. Bloomberg Media, I think they had one of their like best years last year or earlier this year. I think they had one of their best quarters. Great. But for most of the legacy businesses, it is managing decline. And I think that does get probably oversized attention.
Who are those legacy businesses that are managing decline? Just to put, to be really specific about it.
Oh, well, I mean, I think Hearst on the consumer side, your former Perch, and to me, they're managing decline.
Lifestyle magazines?
Yeah. Forbes is managing decline. Fortune is in harvesting mode, I believe you would call it. It's that all of I think in some cases you see, look at what has happened to BuzzFeed. Vox is trying to be like a talent management arm at this point. They've got a bunch of legacy assets that aren't, very exciting right now. So it is a good time to start from scratch because you're not forced to have that scale has become an albatross of costs. You have to get as lean as possible. And it's a good time to have a front business too. A lot of the businesses that you're talking about are media businesses, but really they're using media in service of a different, much better business. I mean, Justin can call events like live journalism. It used to be looked down upon. It's funny because I can remember Henry Blodgett calling Digiday an events company with a website, and he didn't mean it complimentary. And now, any port in a storm, I guess, everyone wants to be an events company. Everyone wants to talk to me about their events. As Alex has said, a lot of people are choosing the second worst business model out there, which is agencies. They're basically what Brian Goldberg is a party planner right now, right, at Bustle. I mean, I respect it. It's just a totally different industry. And
yeah, the point I was making about the events thing is there's having a group out to a bar to convene a 40-person event in support of an ad sale. And there's the coveted position where you get to an event that's actually the center of an ecosystem and a really valuable event. And that one is really hard to get to because it takes a long time. It takes years. And you have to convince a whole bunch of people that your event is worthy of kind of broader community aggregation. And if you get there, you have a very different asset on your hands.
Just to go back at maybe the higher level narrative here is that, we've all been guilty about just like beating down on this business, and I've been guilty than most. But I think to the consumer, to the media consumer right now, this feels like a golden age. It feels like it's also a golden age for a lot of creatives. A lot of talented people are able to kind of go on their own. And not only that, but hire, right? Like MKBHD hired people, Doug DeMuro hired people. There is kind of an industry. These are not just like people in their bedrooms. And they're small businesses, but there's a lot more of them, it seems.
Oh, for sure.
It seems like. And also, when you think about it, like the declining businesses, like when I look at declining business around me, there's like declining businesses that have a real structural and societal impact, right? There's massive malls that are lying empty in the middle of communities. There's like, churches, there's all sorts of infrastructure that's kind of, falling apart and really impacting the community. But what happens if a large media company disbands? What usually happens is like maybe 10, 20% of those people are going to go start a Substack or an exciting YouTube venture, and nobody else feels the pain. It kind of like gets redigested.
Well, the only people that feel the pain are you and me that have to live in Trump's world, I would argue.
Yeah.
What does that mean?
What that means is that there's no common truth, and only the shameless survive. And you can only understand the modern political environment by a complete shift in how people consume media.
Fair.
Yeah, I've been amazed that since, it's interesting when the incentives change of going sort of independent. I mean, you talked about Oliver Darcy. He in my view, he does a great job with status. He's also sort of downplayed a little bit, started to soft pedal a little bit of the oppositional anti-Trump stuff. He's still democracy dies in darkness, but when you get out into the market, you end up doing differently. Then you look at someone like Tucker Carlson. It turns out he was restrained at Fox News. He's gone completely to the other side because the market rewards conspiracy thinking and just asking questions about all kinds of things. World War II. Do we know which side was right?
I mean, that's the whole new thing right now. Is just like we're kind of reconsidering all those Indiana Jones movies to see, was he maybe the bad guy?
It's hard to say. I don't
know. Yeah. Would it have been bad if the Ark of the Covenant?
Putin versus Biden meme is hilarious. That's pure Tucker.
So I guess it is the best of times in some way, shape, or form. And I'd love to see data on this. I haven't actually researched it. I'd like to do some. But at the same time, I feel like people are perpetually unhappy with their media choices, particularly around news. And figuring out what is real and what is not real is fairly difficult. I was struck by how over the weekend, did you see Trump is dead was trending on X? And then the quote unquote, the media got blamed by Trump, and the media ignored it. This was all...
The media completely ignored it. That was actually one of the big narratives across Reddit and Twitter was, where's the media here?
It's you cannot win, really. I mean, look, the media is not without its sins. Clearly, it's been beaten down so much that I feel like it's done its penitence. And still, if something like this explodes across social media, it gets blamed on the media. At some point, you just can't win.
But what is the media as well? Who felt blamed? Who got shit for this? Nobody.
Oh no, Trump said this is why you can't believe fake news. I mean, this is.
Well, I mean, there were also weren't there trash bags thrown? It started now, right? The idea that the fake news idea is going to be supercharged with AI, and there was some trash bags being thrown out of a top window of the White House, and he said that wasn't real, that was AI. So, I mean, I don't even know if it's real at this stage, but that's going to be the ongoing narrative, which is why I do think that at some point, kind of a more modularization of the media landscape, where you kind of have sources which are more often than not going to start becoming personality led. At least people. I think there's going to be more of a press towards. I mean, it's been happening for a while, but push towards people and individuals versus corporations, because nobody knows what's real, right? I wrote in my newsletter, I wrote about this thing about the AI squinting, right? Where you kind of look at everything and you're wondering if it's real or not. And I feel like there is an antidote to that. And I go to Reddit and I go to Twitter and I go to YouTube, and I find the people whose voice I trust and I listen to them. And it doesn't feel that bad right now. For a while there, it felt like, well,
you have specific Redditors who you turn to?
Yeah, I mean, specific Reddit communities for sure. I read most of my news on Reddit. You know what? I read the headlines on my New York Times app after I do the games, and then I go on Reddit.
See what it has to say.
I think it's a valid media consumption behavior.
How about Instagram? Are you consuming news on Instagram, Alex?
I find that difficult. I think my Instagram is too small. I don't know. And TikTok, I feel like TikTok is like walking into a casino. You don't know what time it is. You end up smoking cigarettes and you get out and it's 4 a.m. and you've lost money.
Yeah.
But that's a perfect take, actually. It's either a casino or a mall with teenage girls. Yeah, it's awful.
Do you know Mo News? Mo News is actually an interesting one. This guy, he used to work for NBC or CBS Evening News, Moshe Oinunu. And he started this on Instagram, just on his personal Instagram over the pandemic. He just started aggregating news and basically making it into a nice little Instagram format. And it really took off. And it really took off among, I've talked with Mo a few times about this. It really took off among like Midwest moms. And, he started doing first person videos, and now he's got a thriving little business. It's podcast, it's video, it's Instagram, it's newsletter. And there are lots of these businesses that are being built, and what the ceiling of them is, I don't know. They're probably not made for, say, venture funding exactly, but you can actually build, I think that we're going to see it. We're going to see lots of $5 million businesses for sure. I don't think we're going to see many $500 million
I think
businesses.
if you're savvy, and I think what people are noticing now is that if you're savvy and you have audience, right? I think like you need to, which is maybe something that like pure play media people don't see sometimes. Like if you're savvy and you have audience, there's an opportunity to build something else around it. I'm not building a media business because I want to sell media. I'm building a media business because I'm building audience for my video games, which have,
it's a front business.
Margins. I mean, it doesn't have to be. I think it can be very cohesive. Doug DeMuro has this Cars and Bits sites. I'm sure he makes, I think if you're enterprising enough, it doesn't. I feel that a lot of the events business is media people having a lack of imagination. It's going, how do we turn this into money? Well,
I don't think that.
No, it's just easier to rent out a room or do an event. They're not going to build software. I mean, there is this idea, and I've seen it. That it's like, we have an audience, and we.
Brian, you get his legs, I'll get his face. We'll beat the shit out of him.
We'll just build software.
No, here's the thing. Brian,
give him a wet willy.
Capitalism will sort it out. Don't worry about the $5 million businesses. Where it makes sense to aggregate them, some fucker will aggregate them, right? Where it like Vox will aggregate them, or talent will migrate to bigger media platforms. Like we're in an in-between time. The golden age is I can now cancel station. I can cancel parts of my media bundle without having to wait on hold with a cable company. I can get vertical news with abandon from people I trust and like. I can move around. The only real victim is shared truth.
Okay, it's a small price to pay. Hey, I want to get your take on where we got a bunch of YouTubers, but we just have societal collapse. I want to get your take on Vogue specifically. Vogue has a new quote unquote head of editorial content, Chloe Mao, I guess it is. She's a Nepo baby. And I like that she's owning that she's a Nepo baby, because the Nepo babies get too much grief. I think it's time for them to have their time in the sun. Anyway, she's now head of editorial content because, the editor-in-chief is a thing of the past. And to me, it's actually a sign of where these publications are going. They're brands at the end of the day. You're more of a brand manager than you are an editor. And because the money is going to be different. Vogue just came out with their September issue, and it was a healthy 365 pages. It used to be up to 1,000 pages. And she had a lot of very sensible things to say in the New York Times article about her appointment, particularly around the role of print, because I think I want to talk about print for a little bit and physical media. And she talked about it being basically a less is more thing. You're going to publish less frequently, even than like monthly. And it's going to be around quote unquote cultural moments. This is basically just code that you're going to come out with issues that are going to be part of activations. They're going to be part of franchises. And this is a sensible direction for print. What's your take on the state of Vogue, Troy?
You know what? I love when Jason Calacanis sets the handoff up mid-paragraph so that the person on the other end knows that it's coming. But I knew it was coming today because you're not going to ask.
We prepared.
Ask Alex about this. I like it. I think they're
very
smart.
Troy-heavy, Troy-centric episode.
Yeah. Go to Troy on this. I like it. She seems smart. She seems nerdy. She seems like a content person. I think that we used to have a notion at Hearst called months to moments, and it was the admission that, the sort of water carrying monthly, magazine was being replaced. And, I think that she recognizes that you can't have a digital channel like a website that's filled with bullshit and clutter, that you need to find moments where you have influence. The way I look at it is what sort of carries the water for you when you're, Vogue was point of view, but the sort of, the heft of print delivered that to a lot of people that kind of made that point of view have consequence. And now I think instead of that, monthly cadence and something that matters to people, you have to capitalize on the moment as a distribution mechanism. And so that means everything from putting, what's her face, Jeff Bezos, Lauren Sanchez on the cover, to just, finding the thing that you can lead with. And clearly the brand still has a, reputation for its critical point of view. And I think, she sees a time in the future where we always used to get excited about the potential revenue in the magazine business of the bookazine, which if you go to Target right now, you don't really see magazines. All you see is bookazines. And they're kind of moment or kind of topically oriented, thicker publications that have a high sticker price and aren't nearly as dependent on advertising. So
all recipes, Mediterranean diet, bookazine, Alex.
Yeah, that kind of thing. The keto diet, you see a lot of those. So you're going to see Vogue kind of, on the print side, basically the magazine and the bookazine have a baby. And you're going to change the frequency, and you're going to try to find ways to kind of merchandise that, make a little bit of money, and maintain influence around it. But I personally thought she seems smart. She seems like she is like more of a content person than a sort of superficial fashion-y person. And she's a journalist. And I think that what's required in the next generation of the brand is someone that really understands what those moments are, who's important, what moments are important, what news you need to focus on, and kind of what trends you're going to own. And to me, that requires a really, really savvy kind of cultural observer. And to the extent that she's that, go with God.
Yeah. Alex, anything to add on this before we get on to Google?
She's also a huge gamer.
Is she?
Is she?
Yeah.
She's Candice Bergen's daughter.
Yeah.
Oh, really? That's crazy. One thing that I thought about is that the old boss is going to be a few doors down the hall, and I think that's never a good sign.
No, I mean, look, I don't know if it's gauche to say, but Anna Wintour should have sort of shuffled off. I mean, it's just like kneecapping like a successor by still being there, and everyone holds on too long. Like, what's wrong with just like passing the baton? Like, this is not a Supreme Court.
Yeah,
what is she, like Ruth Bader Ginsburg?
Yeah,
that didn't work.
Yeah, that didn't work. I don't think it's very generous or it doesn't. It feels it's very unhelpful, and it feels very egocentric to do that.
I want to talk about Google really quickly, or not quickly. Big ruling came down, and
what a bummer.
So basically, look, we can get into the details about the data sharing and stuff. This all comes down to antitrust is about either structural or behavioral remedies. And every company is going to fight tooth and nail not to have the behavioral remedies. They can slow walk that. They can tie it up. And what Judge Amit Mehta came down with, and I think he surprised some, was instead of forcing Google to say split off Chrome, they basically got a slap on the wrist. Their stock skyrocketed. And so the details are the details, but the big picture thing is Google basically just has to do some small behavioral changes. And the judge came down by saying they got helped by ChatGPT. And my conspiratorial thinking when I was on the subway this morning was maybe Google slow walked its AI, rolling out its massive advantage in AI to allow ChatGPT to get a little lead. It never hurt Google's core business. And then they had an excuse to head off this antitrust case that has been in the works since at least 2008. Microsoft was drumming up this case in the like mid 2000s. They used to have this guy, Ben Edelman, like on their payroll, and they would send him to me to say about how Google had this anti-competitive position and it was impossible for any company to compete. It's literally the exact same case that eventually got brought against them. And Google has headed it off. Alex, this is great news, right?
It is good news.
This is terrible news. Look, I'm not a legal expert, so maybe this is the right ruling.
That was the original, the original title of this podcast. Troy, you remember that, right?
What's that?
It was you wanted to call it "I'm not an expert, but," and then ellipsis.
Yeah.
Go on, Alex.
Well, how things have changed. Now we have opinions about everything. Yeah, no, I think so. To me, what I was looking forward to, just as a technology enthusiast, was the dismantling of the Google Apple deal, where Google pays like 30-something billions of dollars for Apple never to innovate. And I think it would have done like really interesting things to the ecosystem.
Just to be clear, this is the distribution deals that Google has been striking since the beginning. Yes. I mean, there's a reason that they report traffic acquisition costs. Acquisition costs are paying people to have a pole position.
On the one hand, it's this distribution deal with Firefox, with the Mozilla Foundation that keeps the Mozilla Foundation alive because it's 80% of their revenue. On the other hand, it's a thing that I think Apple has been kind of on a downturn just from the product innovation side. I think this is part of it, where they've never had to really innovate on search. They get this like essentially free money from Google every year to make sure that just Google is the first thing you see when you open up a browser. And I think that, especially with, the age of AI, et cetera, it would have been great to see like Apple try something out the same way they did with Maps and shake things up a little bit. I think it would have been interesting to see what happened if you split Chrome off. I feel like all of these big companies being split up would kind of like feed the ecosystem a little bit and allow for new things to come up. Now, the judge thought that because there was competition from AI, these remedies were too severe. I think you're right. I'm pretty sure there's a bunch of products at Google, because they really kind of like, if you look at their product roadmap, it's really been constrained. They kind of gone... They kind of built a little moat around Chrome and certain things where like, why am I being shoved? Like, why am I being shoved all this AI when I like writing a Google Doc, but yet it's like, so it's not even, it's hardly visible in Chrome, right? And why haven't we heard of more conversations between Google and Apple? They have this great search deal. Google has Gemini. Why, Apple is in trouble with AI. Why aren't we seeing more of that? 100%. They were like, oh, we don't know what we're doing. Now they get to flip all those switches.
Yeah, this is like pro wrestling. I mean, this is a trick, oldest trick in the book. I mean, it's like okay, we told the tiger not to bite anymore, so we're cool now. Like, I think it's what's
bad
noteworthy with this to me is the ad tech cases, because the advertising antitrust remedy is coming up. And they've basically said that the government was overreaching when it came to a structural remedy. So that is going to put pressure on this subsequent case, which a lot of people I've talked to just assume that Google is going to have to spin off its ad tech assets, the former DoubleClick assets that are now Google Ad Manager. Sundar Pichai has really managed this quite well. The other thing that came out is SEM Rush did a study that showed that AI is actually growing the search market. It's not displacing. So they'd found that ChatGPT users actually expanded their use of Google from 10.5 searches a week to 12.6. Now, this is a data point. I think there was an assumption that ChatGPT is replacing Google, but it could just be that the search market is growing even more. Good time to be a Google shareholder.
Are you inviting commentary, or are you socialist?
Yeah, of course.
No. I mean, it's like, it'll get sorted out. I mean, it may take longer than you want. It may take longer than you think, but like, when
these antitrust cases are always...
Listen, there are lots of cases when someone corners an industry in a way that obviously suffocates innovation, discourages entry into that market.
Price fixing like meat and whatnot.
But I think the history of involvement in kind of litigating against competitive powers in technology space is just like too little, too late. And what happened, guys, is a new competitor is taking, I don't care if search, queries went from 10 to 12, because, it's a new type of behavior that it has created, and it's kind of making the pie bigger. The fact is there's lots of options to get access to an index of what's on the web. And it's really cool that Google actually makes good products that we all benefit from and have benefited from historically in lots of ways. We all use Google Docs for free. We use Google Sheets. We use their communication, but we use Gmail. We like Chrome. There hasn't maybe been enough innovation in the browser space, admittedly. And search has worked really well for consumers. And now the market is picking away at it because there's a disruptive new technology. We don't need the government here. We don't need the government taking this apart.
Hey, this is America. This is America.
America, man.
We let them play. Alex, in sports, you get two kinds of refs. You got the ticky-tacky guys who are always throwing flags, and you got the ones that let them play.
Look at what Europe has done in an attempt to limit the power.
GDPR. Get after GDPR. Hold them down, Troy.
Get his legs.
I'm not a fan of GDPR, and I don't understand why it always comes down to these lines. I think that
because some people wanted another of those modals that pop up.
You guys don't realize, like, there's socialism in America. It's socialism for corporations.
Oh, yeah,
like, wait till you run a corporation, how much easier it is. You get Chapter 11 protection. If your bank gets too big and starts crumbling, Intel is like 10% owned by the government now. So let's not talk about like
but Intel, Intel is a different situation.
That's state-directed capitalism
Hang on. I think you have I think you're showing a lack of imagination by saying, look at Google Docs, look at Sheets, look at Chrome. All of these products are in some sort of form of arrested development because of the incentive that these companies have. Like even Safari, the open web that we so loved, right? We're having these companies like not innovating on that because they have incentives to keep these systems closed. And yes, sometimes some intervention is good. Right? These companies, we're the first $1 trillion company was like 2015. Now we have a $4 trillion company, and we're like, no, this is fine. Nothing's changed.
Thank God we do, actually. Thank God we do.
I was watching this show called Alien Earth yesterday, which is in the Alien franchise, and they were kind of setting the scene where these 5 corporations that each own a chunk of the world, and everybody's and my wife said, like, oh, wow, this feels more realistic than it ever did. And I think these companies are too big, and it's hurting consumers. Like the Apple Google deal is not good for us. Like this stuff, it feels like,
Apple is coming out with a search engine, Alex.
Well, I hope so, man. But they're never going to say goodbye to those 30 billion.
It's 20 billion, but they're coming out with a search engine. And guess what? If Apple keeps fucking around and not innovating and not serving their consumers, they're going to go away. There will be change. And right now, it is just about to happen because it's not a phone plus AI. It's AI plus a phone. And that's coming quickly.
Yeah, this Apple event that's coming in on September 9th, I think is going to be a dud. I think it's going to
great, and then a bunch of little competitors will jump in, and everything will be kumbaya.
I don't think competitors can jump in because the moat's too big, and because nobody's doing anything against it. I'm not saying Europe doesn't know how to do this either, but at least they do something.
Well, China knows how to do it, and what they do is they put a lot of money behind their big kind of industrial franchises.
Yeah, and if you complain, and then they disappear you for 6 months if you.
They have an interesting system. There's a new book I really want to read about. I was just listening to one of many podcasts that the author did, Dan Wang, or Wang, I guess, about the China industrial system. I mean, it's like, their leadership is filled with engineers. Ours is with lawyers. That's the shorthand. But they have like a ruthlessly competitive system. So it's like a weird state-directed capitalism, which I guess we're trying to imitate. Yeah. I have doubts that I just think our system is more, we're let them play. I don't think we can try to imitate.
You should listen to this week's episode of Plain English.
Oh yeah, I did.
Oh, by the way, this just in, I don't know how much it matters to people, but Atlassian just bought the browser company, which makes Arc.
God, talk about a dud of a company.
Wow.
They talked more than they actually shipped, it seems to me.
Oh,
I mean,
they shipped plenty. I just like, and people love the products. It's just maybe, I think it's one of those things where this maybe should have been a billionaire's, lifestyle business versus a venture-backed business.
it's hard to build a browser.
And it's a great browser. It's actually not that hard to build a browser.
Is it a wrapper on Chromium or is it like...
It's all a wrapper on Chromium.
So it's not even, that's what I mean, Oh, well.
Brian, is there anything else you had on the docket that you want to go on?
One thing that I just wanted to touch on really quickly was it's hard for me to understand when backlash is real because most of it seems like a version of astroturfing. But J. Crew did some AI models for some products and they got called out for this. And I just see more of these instances, particularly among the creative class, no doubt, where there is a negative reaction to the use of AI in any kind of creative work. Now, I don't know when that becomes a brand problem for AI. Alex, is this real? Because this doesn't seem like a real grassroots phenomenon, but I'm wondering if this can actually impact AI adoption.
Yeah, I think it does. I think it does. And maybe, so in gaming particularly, it's a big enough issue that some games got in big trouble when, there was some sort of like prompting, like remnant that came up in a video game and they were using it for translation or something like that. And there was, pretty severe backlash. But that video game has, pretty demanding consumers. I think it is. I think people have some sort of like AI repulsion when they see it. They don't really want to see it. But what they're not, I think it's only happens when it's noticed. I think what will happen over time is that people will learn how to use it enough little by little so that people get used to it. And at some point we won't even think about it. But yeah, AI generated stuff generally gets a fair amount of backlash. Did you see that Rod Stewart thing where he had AI generated version of Ozzy Osbourne hugging Tupac? That didn't get it. That was maybe a faux pas, but yeah, I think it's an issue. I think
Brian, who broke this story? Blackbirds. Who broke the story?
Oh, this is AB's favorite. I think you're a little late to this. Blackbird spy plane.
Yeah, so they did kind of a gotcha thing, and they said, "Oh, J. Crew bought back, 90s or 80s lifestyle imagery with the help of AI." Like, who cares? Seriously, who cares? I get it. If people are going to have, 99% of people moved through that on Instagram and thought, hey, those are cute bands. Oh, I remember this J. Crew vibe. Move on. Like this is
right. But here's the difference, Troy. And I got to hop off because I have a hard stop. I think that people are fine. But if you queried people and you told them, are you cool with this being AI? Many of them would say no. And there's like a subtle difference there, and I do think it's something important for people to think about.
Yeah.
All right, let's bring in AB.
AB,
Alex, catch you later.
AB. Yeah, I'm gonna sit around for 5 minutes and listen to what
you just wanted to say hard stop. Huh?
I was just giving you a 5 minute warning.
He's used to doing massive Zoom calls, so that's one of the typical keywords you have to use.
I'm running out of zins here, AB. So what do you got this week?
Did you guys already talk about tennis?
No, we didn't talk about tennis. This is the U.S. Open. I had a source tell me that you were at the U.S. Open and you were one of the people who bought the $100 chicken nugget boxes with caviar. Is this true?
Yeah, we bought like 6. Yeah.
Good investment? Give me the case for. It's not that outrageous considering that honey.
No, it shows up in a deal P&L as miscellaneous expense. It's what he does.
I don't bill it back to my clients. I think the surprising thing is actually it was really tasty. But I think when you pay enough for the tickets and the experience, like an extra $100 for caviar nuggets.
I'm glad they convinced you of that, AB. But I had those nuggets and they're like fancy McDonald's.
It's good. But it's one of those weird things where you don't think caviar is going to go. I think fried food with the most random things is pretty good. But I think, Brian, you wanted to talk about how it's become more of like this consumer event, right?
Yeah. Well, I'm interested. I'm mostly interested in rich people because I think the future of media is not really niche. It's niche, yes, but it's niches that cater to the proclivities of rich people. And tennis is one of those. We see it in golf. We see it in F1. And tennis to me is perfect because it's a sport for people who hate sports.
Yeah, I mean, it's
And-
called the sport of kings, right? So you can play it your whole life. You're more active. If you actually play tennis, you're way more active than if you play golf, meaning you get a real workout. The other thing too is like, it's not that expensive to have the equipment, so you can spend money on all the other things. So, and it's fun to watch.
Yeah, and it's a sport that you can participate in as well as watch, which is nice. The other thing that's happening, AB, is the convergence of sort of club life and these type of sports, like the Kith example with padel.
It is the rich fan flywheel that F1 has perfected.
It's good. I mean, you see this with, there's these in-city golf clubs where people are being charged, even in like second-tier cities, $20,000 to $30,000 membership fees to just be a part of a golf club that has a restaurant. It's like a mini Soho house. It has a restaurant and a bunch of hitting bays. But I think it's good for tennis. I mean, tennis is this wonky thing where the tournaments are all sort of owned separately, and then the rights are divided out in a weird. Formula One is like the opposite of that, right? It's like very streamlined. They do a really good job of hosting events across the world. They monetize those events the physical events most in cities that are trying to repair their image because they're in unique spots. And then they do a really good job because one organizing body controls all the rights, the TV rights and the other media rights. And then like LVMH just did a massive deal with Formula One, and that's not possible in tennis, but for Formula One, it works. I think the good thing about tennis is there's a lot more tennis players, and there's a way to show your personality in tennis that's different than a lot of other sports because you don't have a face mask on. You're there for 2 hours. There's different spots in the game where you can be mad or happy, and yeah, it's cool.
It's actually like a pretty perfect sport for this day and age where you have like real reaction from like the audience is close. There's kind of a set of characters around it, and then there's a lot of time on the actual players. So it's really personality based.
And there's drama.
It's fun to watch.
There's a lot of drama, particularly in the US Open. And I feel like tennis players are made for drama because they got taken out of their homes like when they were like 12 and sent to the Nick Bollettieri Academy. So they all have like arrested development. And so their emotions are a complete mess. So they have regular meltdowns, and that plays really well.
Yeah, and the tournament format is weird because in most other sports, you keep playing. Like in golf, you make the cut and you keep going. But the tournament thing is like some of the best players get knocked out. And so it makes even the first matches important to watch because things can happen where a really highly ranked player can get beaten by someone that's like an unknown, and it can become its own little story as part of the tournament.
Yeah, but let's be real. This is about like another thing to cater to rich people. See, Alex, like it's great. This all sounds wonderful, but it's mostly just it's another congregation area for rich people, and that's who JP Morgan wants to be attached to, et cetera. I'm just struck going around New York City the last week, how many activations there are with copious brand sponsorship. I live down near South Street Seaport. Don't ask why. And there's a nice racket, RACQ.
Yeah, you should have come. Did you see it? Did you come?
Yeah, I didn't. No, I didn't. I just cased the outside.
Next year.
I think AB is involved with that company.
Yeah,
I invested a little bit, but what Caitlin's doing is amazing. That event was fun. Yeah,
founder of Racket. It's been around for a while, almost like a decade.
Yeah, it's been. I think that the market is finally, she's using the magazine as like a currency to explain what her kind of go to market, and then she can have it come alive with these events and other things. So
walk me through this because we had a little back and forth when AB went first principles on me, Troy. I got disciplined. He told me I needed to think from first principles. I was like, oh my God, we got Chamath on the line.
Yeah.
But, to me, I was saying, look, I always believe these things are front businesses. Like you use, and maybe it's me being a quote unquote content guy. I'm like, okay, well, the content is just like an excuse to like run the activation. Like it started as a quarterly magazine. What is it down to like twice a year? The newsletter arrives like sporadically. It's not even like weekly. It's like sometimes it's every 3 weeks. I went back and checked. Like it just randomly arrives. So like, yes, is it a media business? Okay, sort of.
Yeah, the magazine or whatever, the content helps refine like an authentic voice that brands want to buy into.
Yeah.
Most of the writers that write for Racket or for any of these boutique magazines will also take their byline off and do that same type of content for the brands, right? So it's in a way, it's like a mini marketing agency.
In a way.
It is. That's what it is. But that's what all media is.
You know, it's like, this is talking
No, I
to
wanna
the tax
hear-
man about poetry here. I mean,
This is Troy's irritation meter.
yeah, the irritation meter just went up. The truth is that tennis as a content-driven sport is very, very difficult, right? Tennis lifestyle as a content-driven enterprise is non-existent. And so you have to create this sort of veneer of a luxury brand, deliver it, you know, in a magazine that's well put together, but no one reads, and try to convince people to subscribe to it, which is extremely difficult outside of a very niche group of people, and then do activations for brands. And really you can sit alongside the tournaments and do stuff like you saw, Brian, and it makes lots of sense. And she's a really canny, you know, aficionado and
I have total respect for
high
the
energy
hustle.
entrepreneur.
Total respect
But
for
when
the
we're
hustle.
being so like, because when we're being negative of magazines, like the simple fact is nobody ever read magazines, right? I've sold a bunch of magazines, and most of their files, their sub files, even when there was 500,000 or 700,000
Well, yeah.
people, most of that was fill. What I mean by that is kids would walk around their neighborhood and get people to subscribe to magazines, and the magazine would never get any money from that. And it was basically a BS way for the ad sales team to go to big brands and say, and you multiply that number by 5 and you say, that's our audience. That's fake.
Food and
Everybody
wine
knows
keeps
that.
keeps
Yeah.
coming to my apartment. I never subscribed.
And Sundberg made this really good point like 6 months ago, which was like, are you actually ever reading any magazine that you get? It's just like it's sitting there, right? It's just like an object. And so if you agree with those points, so we're both like, we're saying you can have two things that are true at once. What you're saying, Troy, is the right thing, which is anyone reading it? No. But did anyone ever read this stuff? Not really. Magazines were a currency to get people on the cover of them.
You're missing so much nuance, and you really like, so
You're getting mad.
I'm not getting mad at all. I'm saying that there was rate-based inflation across the industry because the advertising market in print magazines was so good that it made sense to inflate your rate base to get your rates up so you could sell higher priced magazines. In some categories of magazines is not one category, right? There was never a big tennis magazine. There was no such thing.
There isn't going to be a big tennis. There isn't going to be a big tennis magazine.
And where you saw sort of, you know, superficial readership numbers was in the fashion magazines, right? Because no one ever paid up for those subscriptions. On the other hand, there were those that did a good job of living in both worlds, like Cosmo, that really did have high readership, right? Or there were the news magazines that had very dedicated readers, whether that was The Economist or in the old days Newsweek or Business Week or whatever. So some magazines were truly driven by subscription revenue. Some were just there as a vehicle for, you know, carrying advertising. And the entire industry was guilty of some rate-based inflation for sure. But, you know, today they're all just souvenirs. They're all souvenirs.
So I'm interested in AB. Why are you're an investor in a couple of like magazines?
And I think
this
this
is like a rich person hobby. That's my
Not at all. Not at all.
This is just to go to like parties.
I'll tell you my investment thesis, which the Racket, and this is not Caitlin's, this is purely me speaking. So
Sure.
It's never going to be $100 million business, right? I think, I don't know if the valuation was talked about, but it wasn't that large her last round. And I think the goal is to grow that to a couple multiples of that, but not much. You can't. It's not feasible because your market is not that big. The goal of the magazine is to contextualize tennis and to go get premium advertisers and do the revenue mix is not going to be like a magazine of the past. It's going to be more brand work, events, things like that. And the future buyer of any of these premium properties is someone who already owns something in tennis and says, okay, I need to figure out a way to get LVMH to give me more money. I want to go get more wallet share. So it's not going to be the core brand of the biggest tennis media property. It's going to be an adjacent property. So if LVMH walks in the front door and says, we want to give you $50 million, like figure it out, you can say, okay, you can have this section of Arthur Ashe Stadium. We can put the print magazine in all the hotels where everyone's coming into the US Open. We're doing all these 5 things. And so it's just another way to reach the consumer. Racket is not going to be $1 billion business. Caitlin, like everyone is aware of that. It's like, I think there's been a lot of these premium titles that people perceive them as much bigger than they are. There's not a lot of value to be created, but I think done right, it becomes like a really interesting marketing vehicle.
Okay, so you think that in some like niches, particularly ones that appeal
Formula
to rich
One
people,
is the perfect one.
Yeah, another
There's not
rich
a good-
person need.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think that's a decent thesis as long as you get in at the right price. That group of people as a kind of merchandising arm for a bigger strategic partner could make a lot of sense, and maybe you turn a little trick off it. It's just, it's a question of getting in at the right price and, doubling your money.
Yeah. I also want to talk about padel. Padel's it's been having quite a moment. It's replacing pickleball. I think it's a classier version of pickleball. I think pickleball has too many connotations of, the villages and retirement communities and whatnot. And padel's a little bit more active. Money people like AB love it because you can put 3 paddle courts on 1 tennis court, right? And I was in Grand Central this morning. There's a giant activation. New York is mostly just activations these days for Kith, which is in basically the harvesting phase. It's a cool brand in the harvesting phase. And so they're opening some high-end paddle club. I don't know, it costs like $40,000 a year. And it's going to have an air wand in there too. So you want to get an air wand.
Can I just reframe one thing? I don't think it's rich people. I think it's just, there's kind of different parts of the wealth thing. It's like middle, a little bit above middle. It's like whenever you're earning enough money to achieve like abundance, which means like you can take maybe 2 trips a year, or you basically have enough wealth to have a little bit of free time and spend money on things that are not just necessities. I don't think it's just rich people, because like there's a lot of families that watch tennis and stuff. Like you don't have to. That's the crazy thing. Where I live, the tennis thing that I paid way too much money to join is far away. I can just go to the high school tennis courts and play tennis whenever I want. So like tennis is really accessible and it's closer.
Yeah, no, I don't doubt that. I'm just saying that the attractiveness of these as businesses is mostly around the fact that they're a good vehicle for aggregating high household income people.
Yeah,
so it's okay. I'm not a populist, AB.
No, well, you have a little bit of a rich guy.
A little bit. I try to do, but no, I don't.
I don't have any chips. Chips in my pocket.
You know what's other? You know what else is in that
meant.
category? I think is backgammon.
Backgammon, no.
Yeah. I think that backgammon has become a sort of popular social convening moment. Interestingly, my favorite backgammon app, the one that has the best algorithm, is called XG. The guy who made it is some kind of, backgammon algorithm savant. And it was recently bought by Travis from Uber, the app. And hopefully we'll get a much needed facelift because the UX is really bad. But people are playing backgammon in social settings a lot. And it's a great game because you can be sort of really good at it, but you can also be okay at it and just sort of engage socially. I think backgammon is sort of the tennis of board games.
But yeah, padel's cool. I mean, it's a fast game, right? So it's like racquetball with a court because you can hit it off the.
Is it cool?
Balls.
I'm not sure it's cool.
It's cooler than pickleball.
It's definitely cooler than pickleball.
I mean, it's really all about comparison. I just see basically it's very big in Miami. And usually that means that it's some sort of like superficial thing for extremely rich people. It just makes for good high-end clubs. I have no idea why. I don't doubt that you go into many lower income neighborhoods and you've run across tons of paddle players. Okay.
The reason why this stuff is interesting. So like golf kind of sucks, right? It's like it's too long. It's like 4 or 5 hours. It's like that's not fun. The reason why I like tennis and I think why padel is better is because, like you said, it's a smaller court, so you can throw it into cities much easier. But in 1 hour, you can get a good workout. You can hang out with your friends, and there's a lot of formats that you can play where you can actually mix in like 8 people. So I have a men's tennis group and we have 8 guys. So it's not just 2-on-2. You can mix it in with an instructor. And in an hour, like you got to hang out with your friends, you got a good workout, and you can go on with your day and you're not stuck on a golf course, which is boring. And so I don't know,
it's a big part of my social life. We convene, play tennis, go on
but
trips.
it's fun. Like you can take a break, you can sit there, you can play, you can switch. It's a really fun, and since you're playing each other versus just hitting the golf ball, it's actually like engaging. It's competitive.
But you'll notice that AB is glowing a bit this week, Brian, because he got a deal done, a big deal.
Oh, did he?
Yeah,
Great.
and that was good for AB, and it was good for me too, so that's good.
Wow, chicken nuggets with caviar for everyone.
He's in the thick of it. What else is going on in the world of
Yeah, where's the money going to?
where's the money going, AB?
So, I mean, I think basically what's happening is this M&A market, and I don't think it's ever going to get better. I think it's just going to keep getting more chaotic. And so bankers and lawyers who can help navigate more unique situations are just going to be more in demand. So we're busy. We're working on a lot of interesting things, but they're not the normal process.
What's a unique situation? What, like, let's get a little bit more specific.
The best deal for a banker to get is like a company that's been growing 10 or 15%, has great margins, has a great management team. You get hired, you market it to 20 or 30 people, you get a bunch of bids in, you get to pick the best bid, you negotiate that and you do a deal, right? That's not happening anymore, especially in media. It's never going to happen again. And so we get hired because we know how to bring a solution. We know how to get deals done. Deal making is not like the movies. And a lot of bankers still treat it like the movies where they can be aggressive. And it's like, that doesn't work anymore. So I don't know, the market is working. People want to sell stuff and we're helping people buy stuff. So I think, and then the other trend about this deal that we announced this week is like, you have insanely talented operators who are able to navigate the current market and scale businesses at rapid paces that no one has ever seen. And that's really exciting. So
Give me the banker case for why the free press is worth. I like Dylan's spread somewhere between 100 and 200 million, so somewhere in between there. This is like something like a 10 to 15 million dollar subscription business. Give me the case for this on this is nothing to do with spreadsheets.
Yeah. Here's a simple thing. So when I was hanging out with Troy, because I don't watch TV, so I got to watch the latest season of South Park, and I was like, oh, this is really fucking good. Like these guys have been making the show for a really long time, and they can capture the zeitgeist, right? It was a hilarious episode, which made me then subscribe to Paramount Plus and watch the next couple episodes. So what David Ellison is doing is saying, we know that this company has messed up its connection to consumers. And we have historically been able to cultivate really good IP that we've pissed people off and they've left. The perfect example is David Chappelle. They should not have messed that up. And so what he's saying now is, I'm going to be less value sensitive. He paid the South Park guys, whatever, $1 billion for 10 years. I'm just going to go get the best content. So they did the UFC deal. Paying Barry 100 or 200 or $300 million does not matter. She goes after a market that's consuming news that's younger, more interesting, more relevant. Most TV news viewers are like 70 years old, right? And so I wouldn't worry about the price. It's more about the strategy of what he's doing. And I think you're going to see this across his like networks, which can exist now on YouTube and all these other places. He's just going to go and pay whatever he needs to for the best IP. So I bet he does a Dave Chappelle deal. I bet he goes and basically figures out, here's the consumer that I want to go after. What are they watching? And how do I make a more premium version of Netflix with content that people actually want to watch?
That's a great take, AB.
So this is like a talent acquisition, basically, at the end of it.
Yeah, but Barry's not, it's so funny. Everyone writing about it is like, you've never been inside an M&A deal when one media company is trying to buy another one for a news product. You don't blend stuff together. That's not how this stuff works. It's like crazy to see this writing. I'm like, oh my God. If you just were around one deal, you would realize how this works. Barry's not going to touch the core product. She's going to be adjacent, right? She's not going to go lead a newsroom. If they put her to lead a newsroom, all the writers would just walk out. So Barry is going to be another flavor of news. That's the great thing.
It's a brand. It's a brand.
It's not going to get mashed together. And guess what? Barry has figured out Substack. It's way better for David Ellison to spend $100 million to figure out Substack for a company that's actually done it versus a random CNN launching a bunch of random newsletters. where they just copy everybody. So
yeah, and I think when we make the subscription decision, we say, what's in there, right?
Yeah.
What's in there? And you're going to say, oh, I can watch UFC and I can watch South Park, and oh, Barry's got a fun show on there.
exactly.
You know, I think it's about assembling a bunch of things that someone will say yes to for $9.99 a month.
So does this say anything then about these kinds of creator-led micro? I know you hate micromedia, but these are small businesses, right?
No, I think that's it. Barry's a news product, right? So there's other Substackers that are covering culture and things like that. Barry's a news product. She made it about her because she left the New York Times under duress. And so people know it's Barry, and then Barry goes to Jeff Bezos' wedding. But it's a news product, and it's captured this like independent thinker mentality. I don't know. It's just like when you come to market in order to differentiate yourself.
What I'm saying is, are there other properties that are comparable? Or is this just
one of the other
very
Substacks that we've
unique
talked
case?
about on this podcast, not Sunburst, but another one will get bought here in the next couple of weeks. So yeah, it's going to happen. I mean, these are media companies. They want to go and buy and acquire audience. And if that means buying a Substack, then they'll do that.
Okay, so we're going to see Substack M&A.
Yeah.
It's kind of back to what I said, that capitalism will sort this all out, Brian.
I always bet on capitalism. Always. Should we do good product?
Well, I'll do a quick
Capitalism is a good product. It takes its dings every now and again, but grinds on.
I didn't pay much attention when Nick Carlson left BI, and I did always admire how he lit up their sort of video feeds with, like, you know, video of, you know, robots or production lines or wild and weird things that happen in nature and all the stuff that he was able to do.
Rainbow bagels.
And then I circled back this week and looked at his new brand. What's it called? Dynamo.
Yeah.
I watched a video that had 2.4 million views from something like a month ago. The video is entitled, "I visited abandoned oil rigs and found something terrifying underwater." And it is that type of YouTube content that's ambitious in 20 minutes and is a kind of cheap and cheerful replacement for a more funded documentary. And it's great content.
Yeah.
It's really good content. It's led by, you know, a kind of passionate person. It's, you know, he went out on a boat to these old oil rigs. It was something that, you know, it was well kind of augmented with infographics. It was just a good product. And I think it's another reason why, you know, that it is the best of times, because we're getting that kind of content everywhere. It's, you know, content with ambition on YouTube with, you know, enough quality and enough personality that you really want to watch it.
The monetization has finally caught up. So in the last couple of months, I've had conversations with large media companies who finally get, my belief is today is the cheapest time to ever buy a YouTube channel, and the price is just going to keep going up because ad sellers and the brands have finally figured out, oh, this is like TV. And if we sell it like TV and we buy it like TV, it will have like TV like outcomes positive. So there's Cleo Abrams, there's Macy, there's a lot of these people that are leaning in to YouTube and then also vertical video. And I think it's like the next frontier. Yeah, they're doing really cool things. So
I know I've mentioned him before on here, but Pablo Torre had another banger of an investigation. And I think what's interesting about Pablo Torre is that he's doing investigative journalism in a new format. It's part YouTube, part podcast. He just had an investigation that he did about the Clippers possibly looks like they violated salary cap rules with Kawhi Leonard. He did an investigation into Bill Belichick and his girlfriend. He's done a few of them, and he has a deal now with The Athletic, part of like the New York Times. And I think we're going to start to see a lot more of these kinds of deals, which are more business partnerships. And that, I think, is the most interesting part of these two parts coming together, where legacy media needs the sort of energy of the creator class, and both sides can bring something to the table.
Perfect. The only thing I would say as a footnote, Brian, is you didn't mention the Disney article in your The Only Thing Matters to People with Money, right? Because I guess the Disney experience has become more of an app experience. Everything's an upsell. People are psychotic about using the app. Disney benefits with all the data that comes with the direct relationship to people booking that way, and the whole experience is ghastly expensive for people that Disney used to.
And it's a brand problem, you know? I mean, it was like a totem of sort of middle-class existence. I know my dad packed the entire family into a Country Squire station wagon, 7 of us, and we drove down to Orlando. There were no flights in the 1980s, and if there were, we weren't on them. And nowadays, to go to Disney is, you know, incredibly expensive. But I think that's just part of the reality of income inequality. Capitalism gives, sometimes it takes away. We have chicken nuggets with caviar, and people can't afford to go to Disney. It's fine.
I mean, the sad reality, and this is just going to keep getting worse, is like, what's this? There's like 30% of Americans who can't, if they run into like $1,000 issue, they can't pay the bill. That sucks. So yes, do I feel bad about buying that $100 caviar? Yes. And if someone on the street,
No, you don't.
if someone on the street asks me for money, I give them money. So, but I work really hard to make all this money, and if I want to have fun and spend some of it, I'm going to. So I don't know, but there is a lot of issues with this wealth inequality, and it's just going to keep getting worse. So my random thing, I did get these. These are good. The Apple headphones.
Beats?
No, the app. These are really good. I just got them.
You're a couple years late on that review.
I know,
maybe.
but the thing, I completely agree with that. But I think the thing is, what's always great about Apple products is when you get them, you're like, oh, they actually made them better. I have the Bose headphones too, but I wanted to try these. So,
All right, there we go. Let's leave it there. Thank you for that, Troy.
Thank you.
AB.
Bye.
Talk to you next week.